Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're all having a super fantastic, sparkling start to Tune Up Tuesday. Yes, it is that day of the week that we look at the mindset. Or maybe it's those processes in your business that need a little tweaking and tuning. But whatever it is, we look at it today to see how your mindset is doing. And today we're going to be looking at something about what's holding you back, what's preventing you from moving forward. Are you afraid of change? Get over it. Or as Bob Newhart says in that YouTube video, stop it. Yes, we'll get to stop it later on. But what's holding you back? What is that brick wall that you are using as an excuse that you can't find a way around it, over it, under it, or through it? It's time to change. But as my friend Casey says, nobody will change until the pain of change is greater than the pain of staying the same. So if your pain for staying the same is greater than that of change, you're not going to do anything. You need to flip it so that the pain of change is greater than the pain of staying the same. When you get to that point, amazing things start to happen. I have been through that point many times when I get to a point where I'm sort of like, oh, we'll just nestle down here and get comfortable a little bit. Something comes along that's sort of like, yeah, this spot's not comfortable anymore. We got to keep moving. Like I said, I am so far outside my comfort zone, I no longer know where it is. I try to make comfort zones along the way, but it doesn't work because I get that uneasy feeling that I got to be doing something, and sitting stagnant is not working. You got to keep moving forward. It's also too about letting go. What is it in your past that is holding you back? And when you think about what is holding you back from that incident that happened in your past, or that thing that happened to you in your past, over the years, your memory can change a little bit. You can recall things a little differently. So you need to look at it from a completely different perspective. Look up things. I had an incident that occurred to me many years ago, and it has affected my life in a way. There's been reasons that I've held back on some things. There have been reasons that I haven't moved forward because of some things, or because of what I went through and how it was perceived. And in the last couple of years, I've had little nigglings to go look up about what happened at that time, and to look things up. To actually go and look them up. And then a couple of weeks ago, it got really, really strong. It got to the point where it was almost starting to cause a physical pain because I wouldn't go and look it up. That's how strong this feeling to look up this incident was. So when I went and looked it up, it was a huge awakening for me, because my beliefs on this incident over the years had remained steadfast. And to find that what actually happened at that time with the people involved was, yes, some parts of it I remember what happened very clearly, but my perception at the time was a little off because of facts I didn't have. And now that I had those facts, it helped me release what had been holding me back. And I even got a chance on Wednesday to talk with my accountability partner about this, my accountability coach about this, and told her exactly what the incident was, what my perceptions all these years had been, what I had believed all of these years. And I said, when I finally went and looked up this information, this is what I found out. And I said it completely changed my belief on the whole situation. It was a real eye-opener for me. And I wish if I had had that information back then, it may not have had the impact on my life that it has had. But then, again, with any incident that we go through, with any trauma that we go through, any challenges that we go through them for a reason. And, people say, if I could turn back time and change this, why? You went through that for a reason, so you could then go on and help others. You could understand with others. You could relate to others. It's part of your story. It is who you are. You would not be the person that you are today because if these events didn't happen to you. It's like Brad always, and I've told the story many, 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 many times, that Brad always used to ask me, if you could go back and change anything, would you? And I look at him and go, no. He says, not even me getting cancer. I said, not even you getting cancer. I said because the journey that we went through to get to where we are today would not have happened. We would not be the people we are today had it not been for that journey that we've gone through. I said, look at the people we've met, look at the changes we've made in our lives because of that event, that one event. And he's sort of like, he'd have to sit and think about it. And when I was reading his eulogy, I was telling this story, and I said, if somebody was to ask me the same thing today, the only thing I would ask for is more time. And that was my one thing on that. But, you know, I would not be the person I am today had I not been through the experiences that I have been through. You are not the person you are today had it not been for the experiences that you've been through. Everybody has a story to tell. People sit in audiences at different seminars and conferences all across the world and hear these amazing stories, these stories of struggle that people have been through. And I know this because I sat there and I've done this myself many times. You sit there and go, oh, well, I'm not going to succeed in this business because my story is not as good as their story. I don't have that type of a story. When you go back and catalog the things that have happened to you over your life, it is an eye-opener. It really is an eye-opener. If you look back at different jobs that you've had over your lifetime, different schools you may have been to, you know, were you somebody that had to move around a lot because you were because of your parents' occupations? You know, were you're in a situation where you were constantly moving? You know, how many schools did you go to? Were you always the new kid on the block? Were you bullied? Were you a bully? You know, start thinking about questions. Start questioning things and asking yourself what happened. And when you actually, because there are some things that you will push into the back and you will forget about, and they will slowly creep forward. But take an inventory of all the experiences that you've been through in your life, good and bad. And what is really amazing when you do that is that you find you have a story to tell. And to me, when I did that and I did the stock take of all the different experiences I've been over in my lifetime, I sat back and went, crap, I've done a lot. I've been through a lot. And I would just sit there and look at this list. And then I would think back to all those times that I was sitting in an audience at a conference, at a convention, at something, and hearing somebody's story on stage and going, my story is just as powerful as their story. Their story is their story for a reason because they have lived it, they've been through it. Your story is yours for a reason because you have been there, you have lived it. And as many friends, and I've got a very dear friend who always she keeps telling me, she says, just do you. That's all you need to do is just do you. Be who you are. Live in your presence. Live in your now. Your story is just as valuable as anybody else's story out there. So go tell your story. Tell your story. Let people know your story. Let them in and let them know. And have a look at some of the incidents that happened in the past. And look at the perspective of where you were at the time in your life, where you are now, and is there any facts that could change your perspective on that story? And that was one of my revelations the other day. I'm not prepared to tell that particular story yet because it's a very deep story, and very a handful of people I can count on one hand the number of people that know the story, that know the full story, and then I can count on. I think I've told 2 people since the revelation what that revelation was. So, so yeah, I'm not at that stage to share that part of my story, but just know that when you look at things and you go back and you research things, it's very interesting what you find out and the perspective that you can change. It's another reason I love genealogy so much. And then our other challenge for you today is, what is your big goal? If you have, and where can you start? Now, a lot of people are trying to say, well, I want to earn $1 million a year. Okay, how are we going to get there? Well, I don't know. What is one small step that you can do to start you in that track, to start your training? If you think about it, if you want to run a marathon, you don't go out there, sign up for the next marathon that's coming out and just go run it with no training. No, you spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of training. And it could be starting off with something simple as running for 2 minutes, walking for 3. on one day. Then the next day you go out and you run for 5 minutes and walk for 3, or do a 5 and a 5. There's different methods out there for helping you train to become a marathon runner. You don't just go out and run a marathon. You have to train your mind. You have to train your body to be able to run that distance, because there is that place when you're running the marathons where you hit that's called the wall. And from my understanding of it, I could have this totally wrong, but my understanding of it, it's not a physical thing as such that you hit. It's more the mental game going on in here. And trust me, I know about the mental game. I remember driving this rig from Vegas to Moab in Utah. According to Google Maps, it was a 6.5-hour drive. That's car time. RV time was close to 11.5 to 12 hours. It was a very long day, and I vowed and declared I was never going to do that again. And the problem that we had is that I did not know the terrain we were going to be driving over. And we would come along this road, and all of a sudden we're going down into this canyon, and we go across the floor of the canyon. And I mean, you get to the top of that hill, and it's a gorgeous vista. It's absolutely stunning. And then we go down through the windy road, down the hill to the bottom of the canyon. We go along the canyon floor, and then we go up the other side, go across the top there. Another stunning view comes into view. And then we go down that canyon and across. And I've lost count of the number of times we were going up and down and across the floors of the canyons. But it got to the point where, oh crap, another view, another vista, really another one. When are we going to get to where we need to go? And I'm looking down at this thing, and it still says that we've got 5 hours to go or whatever. And I'm like, this cannot be right. Something's wrong with the GPS system. And it was getting to the point where in my mental brain, I was sort of like, I'm done. I have had enough. I'm going to pull this RV over the side of the road, and I'm walking away. And then I was like, crap, I can't. And this is the internal dialogue. Crap, I can't do that. I've got my parents with me. I have to keep going. This mental game was going on in my head for the last 4 hours of that journey. When we finally got to the place where we could turn off, I was like, yes, don't have to worry about those freaking canyons anymore. Yes, we're out of the canyons. Yes, we can't have long to go. Because, it now showed that we had X number of miles to go. And I was like, yes, we can do this. This is, another hour tops. We can do this. We can do this. And I was like, okay, we're going to go down this road. And then we go down this road, we take a left turn, and we keep going, and we arrive in Moab. Okay, we've got that worked out. Of course, we've never driven this road. So, of course, as with any time you're driving for the first time, what always seems to be the longest part is that first drive to get to where you're going, because you don't know the road, you haven't been there before. So it seems to take forever to get to where you're going, even if it's only 30 miles down the road. It seems to take forever. It's perception. But this battle is going on in my brain. And I'm like, by the time we got to the campsite, and we found where the campsite was, then we had to go get some groceries. And then we came back. And when we got back to the campsite, we found our site.
It's 9 hours.
Because there was the paperwork up at the door there that showed us where our site was. And we got pulled into our site, and we were getting there just as the sun was starting to set. So we just had enough light to get everything hooked up for the 2 nights that we were going to be there. And I thought, this is not happening again. When we drive, we are going to be arriving early to mid-afternoon. So we have the time to unpack, get set up in daylight, and then we have the rest of the day to relax. And then we can go and do what we want to do the next day. There was a lot of mental games going on in that first journey. And whenever you're doing anything, there is going to be anything worth doing, you are going to have those mental games coming in and say, you can't do this. Why are you doing this? You remember that time that we did and what a big failure it was? You're going to get those negative things coming in, like me with that drive. I am done with this. I am pulling this thing over the side of the road. I am walking away. And it's like, you have your parents in the car. You are not walking in the vehicle. You are not walking away from this. How are your parents going to get back to LA? That was my next thought. How are my parents going to get back to LA if I walk away from the RV and leave it sitting there? My dad probably could have driven it, but my mum probably wouldn't have let him. So there are times that you will be playing mental games, and this is why when you hear people talking about hitting the wall in the marathon, my belief is it is more mental than it is physical. You have to have the mental capacity to get through that, which is why when you're going for a massive goal, you have to scale it down to something smaller that is more obtainable. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It's the same as going after a goal. It's one step at a time. So rather than looking at this massive goal at the end and going, oh, because here's the other thing, is that you mentally are not prepared to achieve that big goal over there because you don't have the mental capacity right now to deal with the success it is going to bring. The steps you take along the way, at the same time as you are doing these steps and completing these steps towards this big goal, they are also mentally preparing you to be ready to receive the rewards that massive goal is going to bring you. It's why, you get all these lotto winners, these people that win these massive amounts of money, and most of them end up bankrupt because mentally they are not prepared to handle those fortunes that have fallen on them, because they don't have the mental capacity to, at the time, they don't have, not the mental capacity, they don't have the thought processes that revolve around handling that amount of money. And they just go on a free-for-all. It's making sure that you are prepared to receive the rewards, which is why you're taking these smaller steps along the way to get to where you need to go. So, so as you're thinking out today, think about what is holding you back, why is it holding you back. Go back and look at it from that incident from a different perspective. If you can do research on that incident, go do the research on that incident. Is it something that can change your beliefs about it, change your perspective about it? And then how can you go about letting it go? Because when you change the perspective and your belief, my beliefs, I got shaken to my core when I discovered some truths about the incident that had happened to me. I was shaking for a few days. I didn't know what to do with myself. And when I got on my accountability call with my accountability coach, she was the first person I told about this whole incident and about all the research that had been done, and what the research revealed and everything else, and what I was going to do from here, because my belief is that's a core value within me, and my beliefs are a core value. So to have that shaken, that was very scary. That was scary. So what is holding you back? What can you do about that incident from the past to release it and let it go so that you can move forward? And then what is your big goal that you want? And what is one small step that you can do to start that forward momentum in your training to become prepared for achieving that goal at the end? And that's it from me for now. I got to go run a couple of errands before I get working. And get into my day, get fully into my day. So have a super fantastic sparkling day, and we will catch you guys later. Hei konera!